Hi, fourth graders. Mrs. Oliver here. I'm going to be talking about comprehension that goes along with your reading story in the floppy book. We are on Unit 4, Week 1. The story is called A World Without Rules, and you can find it on pages 208 through 211. This story is narrative nonfiction. Nonfiction means that it is real, so it's talking about real things in our world. Throughout our story, it talks about democracy, it talks about our government, it talks about legislation and amendments, and it also talks about the Environmental Protection Agency. So all of those really exist. It's narrative because it's told in the structure of a story. So our main character is telling us about a world, and during that story explains some of the things that we truly have existing in our world. Our comprehension strategy is rereading. So if I wanted to know what the Environmental Protection Agency does, I could look back at page 240 and do a little bit of scanning for those words. As I reread, I find out that the role or the task of the Environmental Protection Agency is to inspect our air and water to make sure that they are clean. We find throughout this story that if we don't have certain agencies in place like this one, that the world will not be in the best condition that it could be. So we find out that this agency is very important to keeping our world clean. Our comprehension skill is cause and effect, and you'll see that I have a little graphic organizer here. When I'm doing cause and effect, I think about a little thought bubble, which I have here in blue, to help guide me to complete the chart. So in our story, she begins by talking about how there's no rules. If there's no rules, so what happens next? That helps me think about what the effect would be. Well, when there was no rules, she didn't have to go to school. When there was no rules, so what? She could go on the playground anytime she wanted. And then if I'm thinking backwards, the effect is what happened. I want to know why it happened. So why might you get a cavity? By eating too many cookies. Because remember, there's no rules in this story, so you can eat as many cookies as you want and you don't have to go to the dentist. So the effect, what would happen, would be you get a cavity. When you're asking about cause and effect, these little thought bubbles are a really good strategy to help you go back and forth between them. It's a lot easier to start with the cause and figure out the effect. It's harder to have the effect and think about the cause, to think backwards. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. I'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening.